No Shade, Dead Night, Searching and Coming to America, all coming up next on the Movie Burner blog rundown. And joining us as always is John, and we're going to delve right into this, John. This is a movie review from Darren. It's No Shade from this year, and this was directed by Claire Anyim Ozigwe. I hope I pronounced that right, Claire. And just reading Darren's review the other day when it dropped, and we were very privileged enough to see this early screening as well of the movie. What was your thoughts, John?
I've actually enjoyed the film, Stephen. It was clearly a small independent film. It didn't have a massive budget by any means, but I thought it was very good. I've seen quite a few smaller independent films since we started doing the whole Movie Burner thing. We've been quite lucky to have a few people send their films to us for screenings prior to the wider release. So yeah, I actually quite enjoyed it. It's clearly a very dialogue-driven film. Much of it takes place inside indoors, inside buildings, be it a hairdressing salon or inside a myriad of different flats and stuff like that, and even some restaurants and bars. But yeah, I thought the premise was quite interesting. I've wrote out some notes marking out my conclusion in the whole film, and I have says that the dialogue was very authentic to London, well written in the main, and it felt organic coming out the actor's mouth. And I did think that Jade, played by, I believe it's Adele Oney, she was clearly the one with the biggest proportion of screen time. She was the one the story was told through, and it was really about her attempts to find love and a meaningful relationship. She had a thing for the character Danny, who wasn't interested in her. He wanted a lighter-skinned woman, and it's much of a story does tell this, the misogyny of young black men in the wider British community. In this issue, it seems to be quite widespread, with her rejecting the young black women in favour of white, lighter-skinned women. It does explore this. It explores just respecting women in general, which we do see as the film progresses. Jade is disrespected again and again and again. And I says to you, Stephen, after watching it, that there was moments where I was actually, my blood was boiling watching her, because she was so passive in her reaction to it. You were just waiting on her exploding, and there was one moment where she threw wine over the annoying white guy in the restaurant. He was just an absolute buffoon of a guy, just trying his best to pick out the one black film in the last 10 years that may have been amazing, going on about Lupita Nyong'o, and I was just cringing watching it. It put me in mind of Get Out, where the family are trying to impress him by saying they would have voted in Barack Obama for a third time if they could have. But yeah, overall I thought it was a very good film. I'm not giving on too much. I'll let you in for your thoughts and then I'll come back in. But yeah, clearly focusing on the respect in general of women who are disrespected, just the pitfalls of online dating and the absolute superficial gits that frequent it, and also misogyny, and dealing with this issue of black men in today's society disregarding darker skinned women for lighter skinned women.
Yeah, John, I'm going to say something here, and I don't mean this in any sort of negative fashion. The film did remind me of a very well written soap opera. Yeah. The drama there. Darren actually says in his review that the film is about romance and love, but it doesn't really go down the whole Hollywood way of romanticising these couples and their relationships. And basically the film is about. It's about relationships and the way men and women perceive each other, that kind of thing. I believe this is actually Claire Anyim Ozigwe's first, I think this is her directorial debut, and from a technical point of view it's a very impressive put together film. Yeah. It's also well written as well. As you said, it's very dialogue heavy, and you really do have to pay attention to it. I had the privilege of watching this on Monday night, and quite engrossed in the conversations between the couples and the main lead, Jade, and the way she handled all these situations. And you're right, there was some scenes that kind of frustrated me in regards to the way she reacted. The bar scene. Although the guy, I can't remember the character's name.
I don't think he ever gets a name. I think he's just an obnoxious git.
He does come across very obnoxious and very rude and very offensive, and I thought at one point she was going to glass him. But
she would have if it was Glasgow, Steve.
Yeah, certainly would, but I thought from a technical point of view this was a very well made film for its budget. I see Judith Jacob pops up in this. She plays, I think it's Carla's therapist, Margaret. I remember Judith Jacob from EastEnders. You're talking maybe about 30 years ago. very good actress, and that was the face that I recognised right away. I'm not too familiar with the rest of the cast, but I felt for the duration of the film, the story was interesting enough. Yeah. It kept me engrossed. I wanted to really see what happened at the very end, if we were going to get the fairy tale ending or not. Jade Asher, who played Gemma in this, I think she's probably one of the more prominent actresses as well. I've seen her in a few things. She had a very limited role in this, but I think it was probably the right idea because she was playing the ex of, I think it was Eddie, played by Algie Salmon Fatayan, and his character Eddie as well. The rest of the male characters were a bunch of asses, really, weren't they? He was a very decent guy, though. You know, he was a very grounded person, knew what he wanted out of life. And that was basically Carla, the character Carla, played by Claire Anyim Ozigwe. And I think her character as well was really an important part in this story as well, especially for the Jade character. She was a shoulder to cry on, and I think the chemistry between all the characters, whether they were, you know, you liked them or not, I think it worked well. It was very gritty, very real. And yeah, it was an enjoyable experience. You know, I thought for a directorial debut, it was very impressive. A very well put together piece of drama.
Yeah, certainly there was some moments of humour in there as well, Stephen. The moment where she says to the white guy in the restaurant, you know, you're a pest, a predator, you're a fucking joke. I certainly laughed at that, because that was the first thing that came into my mind when he came into our studio. And he's like, I've been watching you from afar. It put me in mind of Stephen Merchant from The Extras. So I've been secretly watching you from a distance. And then obviously Andy Millman swallows that bottle of water, which he'd shook up to an absolute billion.
No, but this is the thing I'm talking about, John. You reminded me of those scenes within our studio. I think maybe two of the guys were trying to hit on her, and it just portrayed these men as absolute asses, you know. And as I said, the only one that really came out of it from the male perspective was the Eddie character. It seemed a very decent guy.
Rory as well, Stephen, the guy at the end that actually ends up going
with
JT. He was all right.
I actually forgot about him, played by Zephyrin.
Even Danny, though, I didn't hate Danny by any means. He's just a young, misguided guy. He's going for the superficial things. He learned his lesson to a degree at the end. Well, he didn't really. He was still going on a bit. Is he not a little bit too dark for you and stuff like that? But I think it's clear that Claire Anyim Ozigwe, I hope I'm saying that is right as well. I think it's clear by the way that she's fleshed the story out that she's deliberately put the character of Eddie and Carla in there as sort of the beacons of how a relationship should be. You should just drop all the superficial crap and just look at the inside and what makes a person tick inside, the personality, the colour of their skin. In actual fact, Eddie says that during a moment where he's trying to impart some wisdom onto Danny in the salon. Shades don't matter, there's no one shade that's better. He even drops a 2-pack, hold your head up quote, which I enjoyed. So yeah, I mean, Danny wasn't the worst either. He was just a young, misguided guy that everyone round about him was trying to guide him in the right direction. You see it even with his partner he ends up with, Andrea. She cottons on what he's all about, and I liked that moment when her and Jade actually got together and were taking photos and stuff, and they were kind of having a discussion and coming together and realising their situations were very much the same. But the final thing I would say on this film is that it's clear to me that Eddie was the exact same as Danny earlier on in his life, and you see that with his relationship with Gemma. She's a bit of a crazed bunny boiler, licking posters and whatever. It's clear that he's grown out of that as he's got older. He's realised what's important in life, and he's trying to really guide Danny along the right path, but he's just not picking them up in it. But yeah, for the most part, Stephen, I thought it was very well shot, certainly for the stature of film that it is. Darren actually says that at the beginning of his review. Most of these smaller productions, they tend to have that cheap feel. I certainly didn't get that from this film. I thought even the soundtrack, some little drops of songs and stuff like that in there, that was quite cool. I liked the story. It was engrossing, as you did say. The dialogue, I thought, was pretty excellent. I quoted some of them, the likes of "You black chicks have to stop this fakery using makeup to transform from Babatunde to Barbie. If a black man wants you, then he'll want you for who you are." That was that guy we were talking about, the obnoxious guy. He did say that. There was a moment of truth, a lot of truth in what he says, but he was just the way that he was portraying himself wasn't great. So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the dialogue. Enjoyed the themes getting explored. They felt organic in the way they were implemented into the film. The standout performers for me were certainly Adele Oni, Claire Anyim Ozigwe, Kadeem Pierce, and as you did say, Eddie, played by Algie Salmon Fateh, and they were the lead quartet, if you like. And I thought they excelled, and they really did pull the story forward with absolute ease.
Yeah, the two that stood out for me, John, was Adele Honey and Sherry Samuels. Played Andrea.
Yeah, she was good as well.
Darren actually makes this. He makes a very good point in his review as well, and this was something I picked up in the movie as well in regards to these two characters played by these great actresses. You really do feel for them, you know.
Jade in particular.
Yeah, I mean, the character of Danny is basically no good for either of the two of them, you know. And some of the best scenes were at the very end with those two actresses, Adele Honey and Sherry Samuels. And one thing that I did pick up as well from Darren's review in regards to the subplot with the ex-girlfriend, Darren says it doesn't really work and it gets a little strange. You mentioned those scenes with the posters, John.
Strange moments,
but I think this was really just to highlight the strength and relationship between Eddie and Carla. I think that basically was the sort of catalyst for that relationship, to show us how strong they were, show you how devoted Eddie was to Carla as well.
Yeah, and again, just the superficial things in life don't matter, Stephen. Gemma clearly thought she was a better looking person than Carla, but she's all subjective really, but she thought she was. But underlying that, you look inward and she's an absolute psychopath and a bit of a crazy git. Bunny boiler. So again, it's just hammering home that look inside, it's not all about superficial, and again, it's the misogyny of the male characters come to some of them realising, some of them not realising, and just the way they're mistreating women at times. So
and Darren's final thoughts on this review of the movie is that he enjoyed the film very much. Thought it was a very thoughtful but not heavy-handed, very mature look at relationships. And I think Darren says he looks forward to seeing another film from Anyim Ozekwe. I think we all share those sentiments. Certainly, she's got a great future ahead in directing and writing as well. A great actress as well.
All the best.
I did like her character, and we'd just like to thank you, Claire, for giving us access to seeing a screening of this movie. And it was a great review from Darren as well.
Yes, absolutely. But we're going to move on to the second film in this week's Movie Banner Blog rundown, and it's Dead Night from 2017. Apparently it's a DVD movie review, but I think this is just Dave saying that he watched it on DVD. I don't think it went straight to DVD. Might have done though. I don't know anything about the film, as we will quickly realise as we go through a short little discussion of it. It's basically a horror film from 2017, and the premise is about a caring mother losing her sanity, setting off a chain of events resulting in a tragedy and a murder. The story of Casey Pollock unfolds from two very different perspectives when one night in the woods culminates in absolute terror. This is directed by Brad Barra, incidentally, and it's written by Irving Walker, and it stars the likes of Brea Grant, AJ Bowen, Barbara Crampton, and a whole host of other people that I'm not going to lie, I don't know much about. Before I let you in, I'll quickly get into my tomato meter fixation and get that out of the way. The critics, 64%, top critics, not available. They clearly didn't deem it worthy enough of their attention. But as we will get into as this progresses with one of the last films, these are absolute gits at times anyways, and I don't know how they get this stats as a top critic at times. I really don't. Audience rating, 62%. So, by all accounts, an average affair. Not bad though.
Yeah, Dave,
I ain't seen it.
Yeah, Dave basically says that as well in his review. From what I picked up from his review as well was that it's got the usual cliches in there, being in an isolated environment, got the whatever they are outside. I don't know. I don't think it actually reveals what they are.
It's a classic siege horror premise, Stephen, isn't it?
Yeah,
I've seen it umpteen times before.
Yeah, you know, you look at the likes of any horror movie that's in an isolated area. Has these usual cliches, and sometimes they can work, sometimes they're a little predictable.
Yes.
I did like the remark that Dave said that it's very reminiscent of The Evil Dead. Mm-hmm. That would probably draw me to go and watch this movie, because The Evil Dead's one of the best horror movies ever made, in my opinion. But on the other hand, it does play out a little bit like an X-Files episode, Monster of the Week, or Cabin in the Woods type thing, that kind of thing as well going on. You said it reminded you of A Quiet Place a little bit in that description as well, John.
It reminds me of, Stephen, the Green Room as well.
Yeah.
The Witch definitely reminds me of The Witch. which is again a claustrophobic setting. It was a small farm in the middle of New England, way back in the Salem witch trial days, and they were really isolated in the middle of nowhere. And the way they utilised cinematography in that one to glance at the woods, you never ever seen anything apart from a couple of flashes to look witches, but really used the scenery round about them to highlight the danger and increase the tension as the film progressed. Certainly looking at Dave's review, he certainly does hint at that maybe being the case here. They're in a remote cabin in the middle of a snowy woods setting, and he says, and of course there's something out there this time. That something's a band of grungy, monster-clawed nasties with supernatural abilities. Again, that's why I say it's A Quiet Place. Very much the same sort of a thing. They're locked in a cabin at a farm in the middle of nowhere, wood surroundings, and these evil things are alien creatures out in the middle of nowhere. So you've seen it again and again and again. It's a classic premise for a horror film. I'm certainly intrigued by it because he does say it's well paced, it's atmospheric, and making the most of its snowbound settings. And I think with these sort of films, it's absolutely key that they do that.
Yeah, just those technical aspects, John, from Brad Burrow, I think that's the chap's name.
Yes.
I think this is his first film as director. He's more known for his producing, and he's no stranger in regards to, I think he also produced this film as well, Dead Night. But he's been involved in that film from, I think, 5-6 years ago, John Dies at the End, as well.
We talked about that, Stephen, yeah.
It's
I think it was Dad in it reviewed that one.
It is a great title for a film.
Not for me.
But he's been involved as a miscellaneous crew member as well on the likes of Insidious films, The Purge, Captain America, Winter Soldier as well. I don't know too much about the film. I don't know too much about the director either. What I will say about it is I like the movie poster. It's very retro. It's very 1970s horror look about it, and I like the way, if you look very carefully in the centre of the picture, it looks like a face. It's kind of
very deliberate, isn't it?
It's quite a clever trick that from that artwork, but it's getting 4.4 out of 10 on IMDb. It's only had 472 reviews, to be fair to it. The film came out, I think, this time last year in the US. I don't know what its UK release was, but
it's 2018 over here, actually.
Is it? Yeah. Well, there you are. But it's very hard to talk about a film I've not seen before. But the premise of this show is obviously to do with the reviews. I like Dave's review anyway. It certainly intrigued me, and as I said, because this reminds him of The Evil Dead, it's something that I will check out now.
Yeah, I final thing I'll add is that he says if it lacks in freshness when it makes up with technical skill and creative carnage, and he does mention there's a few particular gory deaths in there, which is always a must for a good horror film. But we're going to move on to a film that I've seen, Stephen. I spoke about in Box Office Chat earlier this week, and Philip Henry, one of our writers, has now reviewed it, Searching, from this year, directed by Anish Gigante. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, I always butcher these names, and it's written by Anish Gigante as well, and Sev Ohanian. It stars John Cho, Deborah Messing and Joseph Lee. To be honest with you, I don't know many of the other actors in this film. It's really the John Cho show. And it's about an Asian man has a close relationship with his daughter. His wife and her mother passes away at some point. At the beginning of the film, it's very quick paced. It jumps from her being a young girl all the way up to adulthood in a very short time. But she goes off to college, she ends up going missing, and he becomes desperate, breaking into a laptop and looking for clues to find her. And it's a very, very interesting concept because it all plays out on a computer screen. It's a different way of filming a movie. I seen Unsane earlier in the year. I mentioned this on Box Office Chat. That was filmed on an iPhone 7. This isn't, I don't believe, filmed on an iPhone 7. I don't know whether they actually used proper cameras or whether it was cameras from a MacBook they were using, but much of the on-screen stuff that you see with John Cho's character takes place through FaceTime and video calls, and it utilises the screens well. You never actually see a full screen picture of the action apart from when it goes to a webcam that he's placed in his brother's house. Most of the time it's through news flashes on a TV screen and GPS stuff and things like that. Very intriguing story. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was totally different. Kept the tension going, the mystery going, although it did become a bit predictable towards the end in the last 15-20 minutes, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I liked this review as well.
Yeah, just based on the review, John, and obviously we were talking about this, as you said, on Box Office Chat earlier this week. It kind of comes across as a sort of tech-minded version of Taken. without obviously the action. But it's an interesting way to put a film together, something that's not it's certainly not the traditional way of doing it. I don't really know too much about these techniques and how much distraction it would cause for me as an audience member. You know me, I'm not the biggest fan of found footage films. I don't like that style at all. But I don't know, I think it's one of those ones I probably would maybe check out just because I like the premise of the story to begin with. Again, the actors I'm not too sure about. John Cho is probably the standout one there for me. The director, Anish Chigante, I think it is. I think that's also is co-writer of the movie as well. Just having a look at, he's got 8 credits to his name in regards to some video shots. In fact, I think most of them are all video shots from the last 10 years. So this is really the first sort of big film for the director and writer. And it's getting good feedback this early on here in the UK anyway. I know that it's out in quite a few cinemas here in Glasgow. And 7.9 out of 10 on IMDb is it's not to be laughed at, really, is it? It's a great, after 10,000 reviews as well, very impressive. This came out just at the end of August, so it's only been out here for a couple of weeks now. And it's one of those movies that the story really intrigues me more than the sort of technical aspects of the film. I don't know whether that will take me out of the story or not. Remains to be seen, but I'll certainly give this a go.
No, I don't think it will, Stephen. It's very well utilised, the technical side. I says that when I was discussing it earlier in the week, the first 5 minutes or so, it's a bit jarring when you're watching it, because it's like, what the hell is this? You've seen the cursor moving about the screen, he's creating folders, and that's really just a backstory showing you the relationship he has with his daughter, showing you the closeness. And then when it gets into the actual premise of her disappearing, you understand why he's so frenzied and worried and desperate to try and find what's happened there. And just the meticulous way he works as well, creating spreadsheets, databases, going through all of her friends on her Facebook account and listing where they last seen her, what their movements were, their name, their photos and things. It's quite ingenious the way he does it. Almost like Columbo in the modern day. And I love the themes it explores, looking at the falseness of today's society through social media and just this attention grab, getting onto YouTube when there's a crisis happens in their lives. They don't care about the people, but they go onto YouTube and do a heartfelt video saying they're upset and they're absolutely devastated so they can get views and likes. It just delves into that. And you talked about rating, Stephen. 92% critics rating, 93% top critics rating, 89% rating, all on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's a film that's getting widely praised, and it deserves to be. And I do like Phil's review. He does say that the oldest gripe about found footage film is why did they keep on filming? When some monster or crazed killer is chasing the hero, they still manage to keep a hold of a camera and recording. It's always a problem with the found footage genre, but because, as he says, this is real-time media, it doesn't really have to deal with that problem, and it's quite smart. You mentioned found footage. I absolutely despise found footage films. I mind watching Phoenix Forgotten. I absolutely despised that film. It was horrific. I don't know why I even went to watch it. One of the worst films I've ever seen in my entire life. This is much better. I don't know why. Similar concept, but it isn't. And it worked for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The story was brilliant. I thought the story was great. I thought the editing was absolutely amazing. You did mention it took 12 days or something to film, but 2 years to put together. And hats off to Anish, because the guy, or woman, I don't know if it's a male or a female, but they've done a fantastic job. John Cho, by far the absolutely outstanding candidate here in terms of performances. It's really a one-man show for the vast majority of it, with him being seen in his house and via FaceTime and stuff like that. And not much more to add to it. And I've not got much more to add, Stephen, but all in all, a thoroughly enjoyable film. And we're going to move on to the final one. If you're ready to move on, Stephen, it's one that you wrote. It's Coming to America from all the way back in 1988. Of course, the classic John Landis, Eddie Murphy film, all about African nobility hitting Queens in New York in search for a new bride because he's not happy with the arranged marriage that he's had from his parents. And what can you say about this, Stephen? This is just... For me, this is probably my favourite Eddie Murphy film. He's been involved in quite a few brilliant films until he went shite about 10 years ago. And his career took a dive for the worse. But you see this with the sort of a comedic-driven actors. We've seen it with Adam Sandler. We've seen it with a few others. Certainly not seen it with Jim Carrey. And we'll tell a lie, we have. Last 5 years or so. Yeah, the Penguin one. Last 5 years he's dipped as well. So they all dip. But for me, this was one of his best. I love it.
Yeah, Eddie Murphy, he kind of had a little reprise maybe about 10 years ago with Dreamgirls. That was quite a big successful film for him. But you're right, John, the 1980s certainly was the decade for Eddie Murphy as a stand-up comedian, first and foremost. The guy was, he was the follow-on from Richard Pryor, as far as I'm concerned. A very funny man, very talented man, very sharp as well. So transcend
energy as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean the guy just oozed charisma as well, and just transferring that character and that energy over to film worked. I thought the first couple of Beverly Hills Cop movies were amazing. Trading Places, so funny. The Golden Child was an amazing film as well. Yes. And these were all before this movie. This movie was sort of the peak for Eddie Murphy in the 1980s. I do say in the review that although it is a very funny film, it is a more romantic film than he did previously, and the story and the plot to this film and the characters aren't slapstick in any way. It's not a joke every 10 seconds or anything like that. Eddie Murphy's got this knack of just interweaving the comedy into the story rather than the other way around. It's a very touching story as well. Some of his best acting is in this movie as well, but I think this was the first time that he used multiple characters played by the same person. I think Arsenio Hall did a few characters as well. He certainly did the big lady with the shoulders in the nightclub.
Convinced he was involved in the barber scene as well in some way.
It possibly
Rocky
was.
Marciano.
But Eddie Murphy's character, Prince Akeem, a very sweet person, very naive. He's looking for love. Semi, on the other hand, played by the great Arsenio Hall, is such a self-centred character in this. He's nothing like Akeem at all. He hates being out his comfort zone. Can't relate to the sort of working class people of Queens. Basically looks down on them at some point. Doesn't like where he's living. Doesn't get why Akeem's going through all this when he's got all this luxuries back in Zamunda. But it's a cleverly written movie. I can't really go any further forward with this review without mentioning the great Randy Watson and his backing band, Sexual Chocolate.
Yes, and Reverend Brown. He's been my reverend since I was a little boy, and I love him dearly, Reverend Brown. One of my favourite sequences in a film, Steve, any film. You talk about this guy's ability to play various different characters. He does it throughout the film. Certainly the sequence where Akeem is going out to try and find a wife throughout the club scene in New York, and he's playing all hosts of different characters. As I mentioned, the barber scene where they're always bickering back and forth about boxing legends and stuff. But this scene is just unbelievable, as I just gave a little brief insight. I know it word for word.
Yeah.
Certainly I know the botched, absolutely destroyed I Believe the Children Are the Future song. I don't know the actual title of that song, Stephen.
Greatest Love of All.
Greatest Love of All, there you go. I don't know it, but I know it through this film. I've never listened to the original, but I know for a fact he absolutely destroyed it, cut out whole verses.
One of the things that Eddie Murphy's very good at doing as well, he can nail the character and make the audience understand the character very early on. Yeah. In this case, for Randy Watson, he's a very insecure singer. Where he wants the applause before the performance, as we saw. It was just a little one-liner in there that he wanted an applause.
You're all so lovely.
Yeah, and because he knew he wasn't getting the applause after his performance because he's that awful.
Yeah. While you're in the clapping mood, I'd like to give a big round of applause to my band, Sexual Chocolate. Yeah, absolutely amazing, Steve.
And the petulance of the man as well at the end, stamping when he says, "Yeah, it's in time with his stamping." Yeah. It's just a great scene. The purpose of it, of course, was to meet. I think it's Lisa. Yeah. Lisa McDowell. That was the other thing I loved as well, the whole McDowell's burger joint, which was a total rip-off of McDonald's. I don't know how they get away with that. There must have been something McDonald's allowed them to do. Certainly it put me in the mood for a Big Mac and chips, but
What was his phrase? What was it he says again, Stephen? McDonald's have got the golden arches, we've got the golden arcs. There you go, absolute joke.
But
and of course Samuel L's character was a repeat robber as well, Stephen. He kept going in and we got that famous line, freeze you diseased rhinoceros pizzle, so that was great as well.
But I mean the whole cast, I don't think there's a weak performance in there, you know. Certainly I think Eddie Murphy's had a hand in the casting as well, because I think a lot of the people like Arsenio Hall, Eric LaSalle's in as well. He's a great actor as well. He plays Daryl, the sort of a-hole boyfriend. Louis Anderson as well. I forgot he was in there. He was working at McDowell's as well.
Yeah, he was one of the bugger flippers who would get to management in 2 years.
Yeah, he's a great actor. He's went on to do great things. John Amos, he's the father of Lisa. He's a great actor as well. He is very much the sort of opposite of what Akeem is, where he sees an opportunity, especially when he finds out that Akeem is a prince. And, you know, the dollar signs are, you know, popping up in his eyes. James Earl Jones playing King Jaffe Joffer, what a name. And Madge Sinclair, who would, both of them would actually, Queen Aeolian, Aeolian. She's Akeem's mother. It's interesting that these two actors would play a king and queen of a variation in The Lion King as well. Madge Sinclair is since passed away sadly, but I thought she was great in this movie. The list goes on. I think there was also an early appearance for a very young Cuba Gooding Jr. in there as well, and his character's called Boy Getting a Haircut. That shows you how prominent a role it was. You know, it was a game changer for the film. And I don't think we can really miss out the Soul Glow as well in this. I think this is one of the funniest product placements. It's a great song, isn't it? The advert's amazing as well, you know, the settee with the damp patches. The whole thing is a really funny film, but apart from it being a very funny film, it's a well written romantic comedy as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at some of the other names, Stephen, the side characters, the extras, if you like: T-shirt hawker, large woman, street hustler, soul low man and woman. But yeah, devil woman as well. Christ almighty, big stank woman. There's some great names in there. And as you did say, Stephen, it's just classic Eddie Murphy humour, classic Eddie Murphy comedy. But he's mixed it in with some romantic elements to really good effect. It's a great story. It's a classic for me, and a modern day cult classic. Akeem's a brilliant character. He's quite multifaceted, and I love the story of him finally hooking up with Lisa. It was one of my all-time favourite films from that decade. I'm obviously born in 1989. I was born after this film, but I've seen it so many times that I think I could play a part in it. It's just a great mixture of humour, romance, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've not got much more to add though, apart from reprising some roles in the film again.
I think just before we go on that, John, I think just talking about John Landis as well. He's been involved in some great movies prior to this, and I can see why the likes of probably Eddie Murphy wanted him on board. When you look at some of the films that he did prior to this, The Blues Brothers, it's an absolute classic film. Yes. Whether you like that genre of music or not, it's an absolute amazing film. He was also involved in a few Michael Jackson videos. He appeared in the black or white video as well at the very end. He was the director of the video short. He worked with Paul McCartney on Spies Like Us as well. It wasn't a great movie, but as I said, he worked on Animal House as well. Trading Places, I think that's probably why Eddie Murphy wanted him, you know, because his work on Trading Places, which was another terrific film. Come to America has some little references from that film as well.
He also worked in Beverly Hills Cops 3, Stephen.
Yeah.
So he worked with Eddie a lot.
Yeah, so there's a good relationship there. But going back to what you were just saying before I came in with that, John, in regards to talk over the last year or so about possibly a second movie, I hope they don't do this. You know, we've seen so many sequels that have been made so many years after the original movie. Come to America as a standalone film is it's got a beginning, a middle and an end, and it's a perfect little film, and it should just be left well alone. The only reason I think Eddie Murphy would be doing this is for money, purely a financial decision, because he doesn't have to get back to do this movie. There's no continuation of any of these characters. They all had a happy ending, and it was a great film. 30 years ago, it's a long time since that movie came out. I've went back to see it time and time again. When it comes on TV, I watch it, and it doesn't seem to have lost its humour value either.
No.
It's still as funny today as it was then.
Yeah, I completely agree. I said that numerous times before, Stephen. The classic films that you enjoy, they seem to have that pull. When they come on the TV, you'll just watch them right to the end, no matter what. And I can also completely agree with what he says about a sequel. I hope it doesn't happen. There's no need for it. Sometimes you're best leaving self-contained stories on their own. Leave them be. We've seen it with Blade Runner. I loved Blade Runner 2049, incidentally. I thought it was a good film. But certainly no need for them to come back and do a sequel to Blade Runner. That was an absolute classic film. But final thing I'll add, Stephen, is much what I said before. This was the real first time that Eddie Murphy did the whole multiple character thing, and he went on to use it to great effect throughout the early to mid 90s. Certainly started losing its appeal, but it was something that was absolutely synonymous with him for a long time, and this is for me one of his greatest films. But that does just bring us to the end of this week's episode of the Movie Burner Blog Rundown, where we discuss all of the previous films in the last week on the Movie Burner Blog. We'd just like to thank you for listening to us once again, and we'll be back tomorrow with a Force Friday show.
Remember guys, if you enjoyed that episode, then do hit that like button, comment below, and maybe subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. If you want to follow us on social media for all the latest updates from Movie Burner Entertainment, then we can be found on Twitter and Facebook at Movie Burners. You can also listen to us on Google Play and iTunes at the Movie Burner Podcast. And last but not least, if you want to access all the latest written reviews and the occasional article, then that can be found on our website at movieburnerentertainment.org. Until the next time, goodbye.